If your sleep sucks and you've been considering a sleep study or even something at home that you can do for a sleep study, this video is for you so you can get some answers. Let's dive in. If you've been following along on the channel, you guys know that my husband has been tracking his sleep for months using the Muse headband and doing daily recovery tools like MindLift. But here's the thing. With all this tracking, we found that he's been getting zero deep sleep night after night. And if you don't know what deep sleep means, check out this video. And no, it's not just the tech acting up. We're talking months of data and maybe 5 to 11 minutes maximum of deep sleep once a month. Maybe. That's a huge red flag. But we didn't want to just take Muse's word for it. We needed a professional sleep study. But after some bad experiences that some of my clients have had with in-person sleep studies, cramped beds, awkward lights, and literally being told to leave at 1 a.m. because she couldn't sleep, we decided to try and investigate an at-home sleep study. So we did it from home with AXG Sleep Diagnostics. Here's what happened. First off, to start out with the positive, I love that we got to do this at home. No sterile lab, no awkward sleep in a hospital room. The AXG kit came in the mail. Manageable in size, pre-labeled return box, EEG and EKG wires, nasal cannula for oxygen tracking. It was surprisingly thorough. And honestly, returning it was super easy too. We just scheduled a free USPS pickup and it was out the door the next day. And I should say before I go on, I am not affiliated with AXG Sleep Studies in any way, shape, or form. Just sharing the experience. All right, let's talk about setup though. This is when things got a bit frustrating. Now, mind you, what I'm about to say is coming from the perspective of an online personal trainer who has made her entire business online and manageable for my clients. So I might be a bit biased. However, the setup instructions of this sleep study, just one long, slightly confusing video we had to pause and rewind for over an hour to figure out. Because you see, in the middle of this onboarding video was an edit to correct information that was to come in the video. Instead of revising the video entirely, redoing it, they corrected everything we were about to listen to, which makes you beg the question, should we even watch the rest of this? But you had to watch the rest of the video, because otherwise you couldn't complete the setup. So I'll be nice now. For something so important as a sleep study, I wish they would have put a little more thought into making this setup easier and just revising their video entirely. But we got through it. Now I'm not going to pretend that a nice lab-grade quality sleep study isn't going to come with a lot of steps and a lot of wires. That's necessary. It increases accuracy. But as far as the experience, getting him to sleep with all the wires was not easy. But still better than trying to fall asleep in a strange lab with strange sounds. All right, so let's talk about the test results. Now, the instructions said that you could get 2 nights of data. But after the first night of data, we checked the battery, and it was almost empty. So we didn't want to risk deleting any of the data or corrupting the past data by trying to do a second night. So we got 1 night of data. In general, the battery didn't last as long as they said it would. After 10 days, the provider finally emailed a PDF report. But when you look at the report, I was thinking to myself, if I ever recommended this sleep study to my clients, they're not going to know what this PDF report says. It's too confusing. So naturally, I did what anyone in 2025 would do. I asked ChatGPT, and to be quite frank, it analyzed it perfectly, for free. Here's what we found. And spoiler alert, just because a sleep test says no apnea doesn't mean that everything's fine. So I'm going to really break it down in general terms. AHI was normal at 0.5 per hour. And basically what that means is it's good on paper, and it means no official sleep apnea. But his respiratory disturbance index, or RDI, showed 8.3 per hour and 52 respiratory effort-related arousals, or RERAs. According to the analysis, that's considered upper airway resistance syndrome, or UARS. So as per the apnea data, his breathing technically never stopped, but it did get hard enough to cause micro arousals, or making him wake up 52 times throughout the night. Now let's talk about his deep sleep, which came in at only 7.5 minutes. He should have had at least 60 to 90 minutes of deep sleep. His brain basically never got to rest. Now, the other finding of this test was his sleeping position. Most negative events happened on his back. And yes, he does snore, but it's a different type of snore. It's more like choke breathing. And I've watched him shoot up awake because he scares himself. And while I know it scares him, it kind of scares me too. Okay, cool, Emma. Now we have the report, the analysis, but what do you do with it? So even though his test says no apnea, here's what's really happening. He, more than likely, has UARS, the not quite apnea condition that still fragments sleep, causes exhaustion, and keeps your body from healing overnight. Which again, UARS is upper airway resistance syndrome. And UARS is actually underdiagnosed, and it happens to match everything we've seen with the Muse and his symptoms: gasping awake, no deep sleep, brain fog, fatigue, all that fun stuff. Okay, just so you guys can stay in the loop, let's talk about our game plan. And believe me, we're going to try everything we can. First up is something called side sleeping therapy, which, you guessed it, is sleeping on your side instead of your back. Most of his negative events, waking himself up, were when he was on his back. So we will experiment with body pillows and even a positional sleep shirt, which is sometimes referred to as a sleeping backpack or backpack therapy. The second and possibly most useful route we're going to take is something called myofunctional therapy. We are going to start this very soon. Think of it like strength training for the tongue and airway muscles. It helps with nasal breathing, better tongue posture, which is actually a thing. You're having hard enough time with your own physical posture, now you gotta worry about your tongue. And of course, most importantly, in all of that training, it will help keep the throat open at night so he can breathe. The other step to consider is an ear, nose, and throat doctor and an airway dentist screening. Upper airway resistance syndrome can be caused by tongue tie, which, if you're unfamiliar with that, like I was, it's when that line from the bottom of your tongue is extremely tight and prevents your tongue from moving properly. Speaking about it in a very generalized way. UARS can also be caused by jaw issues, especially with past orthodontal work, or blocked nasal passages, which breaking your nose once or twice could definitely do that to you. And my husband has all of those. And another step we can consider is trying an APAP or CPAP, even without an apnea diagnosis. These machines can help keep airways open during sleep. Some people with UARS feel way better with them, so it's worth considering. And this next one doesn't apply for us, but if you guys find yourselves in this situation and you might have UARS, you may want to consider this. No alcohol or sedatives before bed. Both of these relax the airway muscles too much, which makes UARS worse. And yes, those sedatives include sleeping pills, which for so many people, they might think, oh, that's counterintuitive. Why would I not be able to take a sleeping pill that would help me get to sleep? But again, it's because it relaxes your muscles of your throat too much, so you can't keep them open to breathe. So you remember when I brought up the tongue tie and I briefly touched on it? It's important enough for me to explain it again. I mentioned that a tongue tie has to do with that little string in your tongue. And I also mentioned something about tongue posture. Well, simply put, if that string is too tight underneath of your tongue, it will prevent your tongue from being able to rest on the roof of your mouth properly. And it happens to be a major issue in upper airway resistance syndrome and airway health in general. To find out if you might have a tongue tie, there are some simple at-home tests you can try. And I'll link those resources below. But we'll definitely be making sure we evaluate my husband for this. The sleep study didn't say apnea, but we're not letting that stop us to getting to the root of the problem. Sleep is foundational to everything: mood, fitness, recovery, brain health. If you're dealing with sleep issues that doctors keep saying are normal, definitely don't stop digging. And seriously, think about myofunctional therapy if you have any airway related sleep issues. Myofunctional therapy is not that heard of, but it's incredibly powerful. And as always, don't be afraid to get a second opinion. If this video helped you, please drop a comment below or share your story. You're definitely not alone in this. Hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and please share this video for all those who may benefit. That's all for this one, and always remember, your health is an investment, not an expense. I'll see you in the next one.